The Dunu 242. Let's talk about it. The Dunu 242 is a 2-dynamic driver 4BA 2-planar IEM from Dunu. This was sent out to me as a sample. Let's start by looking at the build quality of this IEM. This was sent out to me at the same time as the Dunu 142. My review for that is already live. You can check that out now. The shell of the Dunu 242 is exceedingly comfortable. It is vented as kind of a gold ring around it, which I think makes it a little bit more durable. The nozzle is made out of metal, so it's kind of a nice blend with metal and resin. I like it. It has a nice L for left and R for right to be able to tell the difference between the two. The shell is extremely pretty. I like it. I think it's a really vibrant color. It's a slightly recessed 2-pin cable connector, which is good, but it also comes with a fantastic cable, so it's not too hard to swap this cable out. I like the design, the fit, the feel of this IEM. I think it's exceptional, and I think it really pops in the light when you really look at it now. You do get a fair amount of accessories. You do get a 6.3 adapter and a fair amount of tips with this accessory package. You also get some cards, which I think are kind of fun. I like them. I think it's a nice touch. It gives a little bit more theme and flair to this husbando style IEM. The cable, it's kind of their Dunu stock cable, but it's a very nice feeling cable. It has a functioning chin slider. Its overall feel to the cable is very premium feeling, and it's a nice cable all around. It looks and feels great. You can change this out to a 3.5 or a USB-C adapter. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Again, I like the feel of this cable a great deal. There's your 3.5 adapter that does come stock with this, which is nice. The case for the Dunu 242 is basically their standard case they use on most of their models. It's a nice case, nothing too exciting, nothing too different or unique, which is a little bit disappointing considering the fun colors of this. Let's take a minute and look at the box of this IEM. It's a fun box with lots of vibrant colors. I like it. It's basically the same size as the Dunu 142. So how would I describe the sound of this IEM? It's unique. I can't think of anything more like this. It has a lot of characteristics of a lot of other IEMs that I like. It's a lot of fun. It has nice, thick, rich bass. It's dynamic. It's punchy. It's very musical. It's easy to listen to music for hours on this. It's never excessive. It's never too much. It just has a nice amount of detail and lack of sibilance for me. I think it's a really great, engaging set. It's almost like you took Frankenstein Monster, like you took a bunch of different IEMs, like the different sound profiles and tech, took some of the best parts of each one of them and kind of jumbled them all together to make this IEM. It's interesting. It's almost like an Elysian IEM. It's almost like an Afu IEM. It's kind of interesting. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit warm, but not really. It has slight interesting characteristics that I think make it a very competent, well-rounded IEM, and I can't think of anything quite exactly like it. I like it a great deal, but it's hard to pinpoint this IEM and what it does. Its mids and bass are a little bit dialed back from versus maybe what my preference would be, but I don't really notice that. It feels rich. It feels full. It feels like the mids are very full and present. It feels very like a very engaging, rich, dynamic set with an interesting overall tonal balance and tonal presence to it. Let's go ahead and look at some graphs and kind of talk about what I'm trying to say with the sound of this IEM. All right, before we get too deep into this, I didn't want to show you that you can buy this on Dunu Direct if you would like to. When you buy it there, you can get a discount code for 10% off and a free gift. You can get a USB-C type plug for your cable, which is nice. You can get an extra set of tips. If you like as well. I think that's a nice, great deal for those that are interested in it. 10% off is not insignificant. It's like $35 off, which is great. All right, let's look at the graph. What do you notice? It has a nice base shelf, but it's not excessive. It has a nice amount of upper mids, but again, not excessive. What it does is sometimes you got to think about this mid section about what they do. And this is more of a different style of mids. It's almost like the mids are a little bit more full. It does have a little bit of a base shelf. It does have a little bit of mids. We'll try to give some good comparisons about what the mid range of this IEM is like. The first one I want to compare this to is the Dunu 142. I did a little bit of a comparison there. I'm going to try to do a good comparison here for you guys. There's a couple things about it. It's more sub-bassy. It's a little bit more mid-presence focused. It does have a little bit of a different treble, like a little bit more imaginative treble. I feel like the Dunu 242 is a little bit more natural in its approach and a little bit more rich with a little bit more warmth, while the Dunu 142 is kind of crazy bass. It does have a little bit of colder vocals, and it does feel a little bit colder and not as rich in some ways. So like warmth is kind of a big thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about warmth later. But I did want to say I personally probably would gravitate towards the 142. There is a unique special quality about the Dunu 242 that I don't think you get out of the 142. But like as far as like to a lot of the genres of music that I listen to and as an all-around well-rounded set, I do find the Dunu 142 to be a much better value and a really stronger profile, especially for those that really want bass and are really looking for kind of a unique set. Like I really like the Dunu 142, and I think the 242 is also unique, but I think it's a little bit of a different style IEM. The way I would kind of describe these IEMs, if people are very familiar with, say, the Awful Performer 5 versus the Performer 8, the Performer 5 is a little bit bassier, and that's kind of like the 142, and the 242 is a little bit more like the Performer 8, and a little bit more recessed in the mids and in the bass. Okay, so let's look at some other IEMs that this is like. The Dunu, the DK3001BD Brain Dance. Now, I like the Brain Dance. I think it was a good set. Maybe a little bit, I don't know, overhyped. I did like it with an impedance adapter. So when I used it was kind of like this, where it has a ton more bass. But that's just kind of me. Now, the thing about the Dunu 242 is that it's flatter. It has less of that bass talk, a little bit more of that warmth, which is a nice thing. Has a little bit more forward 1K, which is kind of reminiscent of some Elysian products. And we'll look at some of those here in a bit, and has a little bit less of this 6K region, which I can be a little bit sensitive to, and does have a little bit more excessive upper treble, making it a little bit more fun, kind of like a treble head sort of a set, and like a little bit less maybe natural upper treble. I think the Dunu 242 just feels really natural and clean, and it's a nice non-crazy set, like almost like a studio set of IEMs, and it's a studio set of IEMs that are done very well and really nice. As far as like the Dunu Vulcan 2, I like the Dunu Vulcan 2, and you pretty much got similar mids as the Dunu Vulcan 2, but you'd also get rid of that kind of mid-bass kind of drop, and it kind of adds a lot better adaptation to this. I think the bass and the presence of it feels fuller. You also get extenuated upper air. And so I would recommend the Dunu 242 over the Dunu Vulcan 2. And I think it's a lot better of an IEM, and it's a lot, I don't know, it's just a lot more fun and engaging. A lot of people have been comparing this to the Dunu Da Vinci. And I don't want to cap on anyone that or say anything rude, but I don't feel that this is really, I don't really feel it's the same kind of a thing. I feel the Da Vinci has a lot more sub bass, a little bit more mids presence, a different presentation for upper air and treble. I think it's just a better, cleaner driver. It is more expensive, but they have different styles and approaches. I wouldn't necessarily say the Dunu 242 is better, but it does hit some preferences, and does have a different approach to sound that I think is really quite lovely and engaging and a little bit more natural and clean feeling for me. It's a good set. I think it's really neat and interesting. As far as like, I want to compare this to Team Warm Poo, as some people might call. And the first Warm Poo we're going to look at is the Truth or Pure. You'll notice the Pure has a lot more warmth in this region, even though like the Dunu 242 is a little bit warm. It's not the same. You'll notice it has way more extenuated upper air and treble. I think it's a better set, but again, the Truth or Pure is kind of one of the sets that a lot of people like if you're really a Warm Poo lover. You'll also notice it has more of that 1K region, which I think is a fun colorization. Even you look at something like the FIO FX17 Captain. This is the Captain of Team Warm Poo, and Warm Poo Captain absolutely loves this extra like linear bass up here, a little bit of 3K. It also has a lot of 8K. I kind of am sensitive to 8K, and so I don't know. I personally think the Dunu 242. I would go over the Dunu 242 over the FIO FX17. But again, I am not part of Team Warm Poo. Another one that's like good Warm Poo is Soft Ears Volume S. And this one has a little bit more extra air. Let's turn that into yellow. But it has a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit more relaxed than the treble. I kind of like a little bit of a cut there. I think it helps with female vocals a little bit. I think the Dunu 242 and the Soft Ears Volume S, I mean, I like the extenuated air, and there's the upper treble detail of the Dunu 242. These are about the same price, give or take, depending on sales. So I think this is a pretty fair comparison. And I just think the Dunu 242 is a really nice set, but it's a lot less mid-focused. It feels in ear a little bit more sub-bassy, and it feels in ear a little bit more natural and incisive in a lot of ways, whereas the Soft Ears Volume S felt a little bit kind of relaxy in some ways, which I didn't really like. Its bass felt really pillowy. Its upper air felt lacking. It's just kind of, it's a nice colorization, but it felt like a colorization, whereas the Dunu 242 felt extremely natural. And that's what I really love about this IEM, and I think it makes it a different, unique IEM. There are these IEMs, like we can look at these two. We'll even look at, let's look at the Diva even. And with the Diva and all these Elysian IEMs, you'll notice something that they all have this kind of like mid-bassy sort of, like not mid-bassy, but this upper mid-style approach that's a little bit extra 1K. If we look at some of the other ones they have, if we look at, say, the Pilgrim Noir, and the Noir kind of has that same sort of a feel. Like actually the Noir and this have a lot in common. I do think the Dunu 242 is a lot more exciting. It's a lot cheaper of an IEM. I thought the Pilgrim just kind of lacked that extra air, that emphasis, that punch, that fun factor. You know, the Diva, its upper mids and bass factor was like either too sub-bassy depending on the switch. It had too many switches that just were kind of blarg and not super exciting for me. The Noir just kind of didn't hit the mark. The OG Pilgrim, and this is even cheaper than the Pilgrim, it doesn't have as much bass, it doesn't have as much upper mids, but it has this more laid back, more natural feel to it. Again, it's not going to be a fun presentation, but it's a fun presentation that it's a little bit more natural and a little bit more warm than other sets you might get. There's a richness and kind of a fire to the sound, but it's subtle. It's very, very subtle and very only in the vocal presence. I mean, even you look at something like the Apostle, you'll notice it does kind of have that extra 1K hump, a little bit more prominent in the Apostle. The other ones I wanted to show you here are like the Chue, and the Chue is a great set, but there's a lot of similarities with the Dunu 242 and the Chue. The Chue has a little bit more sub bass, a different upper treble approach. And I think the Chue is a good set, but it's also impossible to get a hold of. Its shell can be a little bit less comfortable. The Dunu 242 is, $100 cheaper, has a little bit less impactful bass. I do think the Chue is the better set, and there's a lot of similarities, especially in this upper mids, and they both kind of suffer in some of the same issues, and they have a lot of the same strengths as well, which is something kind of to note. But I think the Chewy is a little bit more of a fun, engaging audiophile sound, or the 242 is a little bit more of a natural sound. Another one to look at is the Noah. I like the Noah. The Noah versus the 242 is good, is interesting. One you get really kind of popping in forceful forward mids and forward bass with kind of dead air, whereas the Dunu 242 really jumps forward with that air and this lifelike-ish presence to it. And I think they I don't know. There's something to be said of the Dunu 242. It has a little bit of that kind of swagger of the Dunu 242 or the Hercules Audio Noah to it. Like the mids are really rich, forward, and interesting, but not as forward and not. It's just a completely different style approach. As we look at the Afu IEMs, you'll notice, like, we'll look at some of these, like the P7. First of all, the P7 and this have a lot in common, but the P7 has like just different upper air presence region around 6K. The Performer 7 has this thing where it feels like extra oddly incisive, and like sometimes it's like upper treble feels a little bit too like almost jittery, almost like phony. Whereas I feel like the upper air and the treble, the Dunu 242 is just a little bit better, but it's, you know, it's close. The Performer 8, these two have very similar frequencies, like almost the same. You'll notice a little bit better of that lower mid treble region around this 5 to 6K region. Performer 8's even a little bit less mids and a little bit less bass, so it's like kind of that style of extra flat. Speaking of which, the Performer 8S is coming out soon, which is exciting. You look at something like the Dawn X, and the Dawn X is kind of like that too, with that air and presence region, but the Dawn X has a little bit more of this flat, even 4 to 6K region. You also get a little bit more sub bass, which can be more engaging as well. They're different sets. Awful Dawn X is fantastic. It's a great set, but you'll see a lot of similarities with their graph and their tuning philosophy here. Another set this reminds me a lot of is the EPZ P50. Again, the 242 has great extended air up here, and it's just a nice overall clean tonality, but you'll notice its upper mids are a little bit more cut. It's a nice set overall. The Mega 7, I've just reviewed the Mega 7, and I've been doing some ABs with them. The Mega 7 does have a more lifelike treble approach. It's very nice. It's very clean. I think it's in some tracks it's going to be more engaging and going to be a little bit better. With the High Senior Mega 7, you do get a little bit more sub bass focus. You get a little bit of that warmth gets cut out. And so it's just kind of, they're similar in their natural-ish approach to things, but with the Dunu 242, you're getting a little bit more warmth, which I think a lot of people are going to like. Another IM that's kind of around this price is the Zigat Luna. The Zigat Luna has a lot of air and hiss up here, has a little bit more sub bass. It's also a very, very nice set, very clean and well done, but kind of that same sort of mids approach to it. And it's also a nice set. There's a lot of great sets out there right around this price, and this $300 to $350 range is extremely competitive with, I mean, even with like Zigat competing with itself with stuff like the Zigat Horizon. For me, the Zigat Horizon and the Luna are two of the ones that are to beat at this price. I think the Zigat Horizon has a really nice colorization of upper air and a little bit more thicker bass. You'll also notice has a little bit less of that 1K, almost this stereo 3K approach right here. I really like the Zigat Horizon. I think it's an impressive set. I would encourage you guys to try both of these, but it's tough to say. It's like, do you want natural or do you want kind of a fun, crazy approach? And the Zigat Horizon does that crazy approach, I think, a little bit better on some tracks. But it depends. It depends on what you're looking at. Depends, maybe you don't want as much bass, and the 242 might be the better way to go. And you're looking for less theatrical and a little bit more natural, unlike the Dunu 242. Well, another thing to talk about is the Moondrop Dusk. The Moondrop Dusk is a funny IEM in that it has a DSP setting, which I like the DSP setting, but what I thought was interesting of a comparison is how close these are. This comparison with these two graphs, right, for your wired IEM of the wired side of the Moondrop Critical Dusk, like your non-DSP setting. Again, you'll notice this air is just kind of flat and even, whereas the Dunu 242 scoops and then rises up later. They're just slight different approaches. And that's something that I wanted to kind of point out to you. And I thought it was an interesting comparison. Both really good sets, both really flat treble. And again, if the dust felt too like lacking bass, this is not going to be the one for you. This is, you know, has kind of some similarities where its bass is a little bit, just a little bit north of that flat, which is to me nice. And I kind of just wanted to end and showing you off again the Dunu 142 again, that like they have a lot of significant differences, and I think it's a really interesting comparison to talk about these two IEMs and how they're different. And again, the big thing that this warmth area, this is a huge portion of the frequency response graph, and you'll just notice a little bit more fun exaggerations and colorizations with the 142, where the 242 feels more flat and even and kiltered. There's a lot of fun reasons, like this extra bass, like this extra upper mids, like this extra almost like 12K region just kind of adds a little bit more excitement in its treble region. Something to look at. All right, the Dunu 242, let's rank it up. Solid bass. It's fun, it's engaging, but it's not perfect. I'm going to give it a solid 7. Its richness and presence is there, and its dynamics are there. Its level is not as high as I might want, but it does have a like really nice and good quality bass. The mids are really the star of the show. It's a very mid-focused set. If you look at like the treble, I think it's really nice. I think it's clean, but it doesn't like, I don't know, it's just not as exceptional as like those mids are. The mids just have this little bit of fun forwardness to them, like the mix of that extra 1K and that extra sub bass. It just kind of really makes it a fun set. I think it's a very technical set. I think it's an engaging set, and it just has this weird Frankenstein mix of different tuning philosophies kind of thrown together, and I find it really effective and really engaging. And I think it's like, you know, if I had to give this a star rating, I probably would give this like a 4-star rating. I think it's a nice set. I think it's a dynamic set. I think it's something that I would recommend to people. But the 142 exists, and that becomes a little bit of a hard pass, like a hard explanation to some people of why it really justifies that extra money. But I think it's for those people that want that extra sophistication in their life. So what is this set? It's a set that I feel is highly sophisticated, engaging, interesting, but it has this interesting flair to it, this beautiful red flair to it. And is it because it's super bassy? No. Is it because it's super midsy? I don't know, but it just has a great sense of feel to it, a great natural, lovely IEM that I encourage people to give a go. I personally really like IEMs like this. It's a little bit different. It's not as V. It's kind of a very slight, very, very mild, tactful V. And it's an interesting set that I think is done well. Is every IEM going to be for every single person? No, and I think that's what I encourage you guys to think about. I think people that really like the brain dance, they may not want this. They might want that extra treble. They might like the extra bass of the 142. And that's kind of where I would personally lean people towards if they're not sure. Plus, it's the cheaper option. But do I like it because of the cheaper option? No, I like it because it has way more bass. And it's just a really different kind of a sound that you don't get very often. This, again, I can't think of an IEM that this reminds me of, because I don't really know if there is one. It's unique. It's special. It's kind of like a little snowflake in its own right. And I like it a lot. I think it's pretty special. I've enjoyed my time testing with it. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye for now.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!